Okay, before we get into this, I just want to make it very clear that if you are a professional wrestler of any ilk, I have massive respect for you because I understand how hard professional wrestling is. However, in this crazy world of the internet, there are two conversations that people like to have. One is, oh my gosh, who's the best wrestler ever? And the other is who was crap. Now again, I don't believe in that word. I don't think anybody is crap. I respect you for putting in the time and putting in the effort. But there are plenty of opinions out there. You have let your opinions be known, and it has fallen on my shoulders to recount them in this list, which is, yes, the worst ranked wrestlers all the way back from 1990 all the way up to 2021. Let's get into it. Number 32, Mike Rotunda in 1990. See, we've already started sillily, is that a word? I don't think it is, because Mike Rotunda a few years after this was going to turn into IRS, one of my favorite gimmicks in the history of all of wrestling. Because he was just a tax man trying to do his job, and yet for some reason that made him a bad guy. We're like, boo, boo, I don't want to pay my taxes. Even though if you don't pay your taxes, you're probably going to go to jail. But according to your brains, the father of Bray Wyatt wasn't really lighting the world up in 1990. And that is true. It's not like he was having 5-star classics. Was kind of just going through the motions. Number 31, Oz in 1991. And this entry is the direct opposite of the last, because what the flubbins did you want Kevin Nash to do with the gimmick of Oz? I mean, he was literally told, pretend you're a character from the movie while also being a threatening wrestler. You want to see how that works? It misses. Nash was also still learning the ropes in 1991, so this was just a double whammy. Sometimes you have to give people training when they're not on national TV. Number 30, Nails in 1992. Well, this one is a little different because Nails was nuts. And all you really need to know is that he once had a proper physical interaction or confrontation with Vince McMahon behind the scenes because he didn't like a payoff or he didn't like his story, or like I say, because he was just a little bit bonkers. Also, when he did do wrestling, he just put people on chin holds. And if Nails is watching this, please do not come after me. Number 29, the Giant Gonzalez in 1993. My big question with the Giant Gonzalez, especially in WWF, is why did they put him in that big suit, that muscle suit thing, and then put hair onto it? That was somebody's job. Put the glue on and then stick hair onto a suit. I still don't understand. The problem with Gonzalez too, as stupid as it sounds, is that he was too big for his own good. I know that sounds ridiculous because that was the whole idea behind the persona, but he basically had no knees, and how are you going to be able to have any kind of good wrestling match if you don't have knees? And I think all of this, especially on this year, was summed up at WrestleMania 9 with his match in The Undertaker. My advice to you is to never watch it. Number 28, Bastion Booger in 1994. And then take everything I just said and repeat it. Bastion Booger was another guy who didn't really have the ability to walk, let alone wrestle. And also, let's just take a moment to remember what his gimmick was. Bastion Booger, or a guy that was just really, really disgusting. Oh yeah, WrestleMania World Champ. Now the plus side was in the mid-90s, we had a bunch of big guys that could fly around the place like Bam Bam Bigelow, but it meant once you got to people like Bastion Booger, well, you could kind of see where their foibles lay. Number 27, Bertha Faye in 1995. Another wrestler screwed by their gimmick that was placed upon them in the WWF. Bertha Faye was fine before she arrived in Vince McMahon's creation, but then was told, look, we want you to be a comedy character, so when you are wrestling in the wrestling ring, we want you to be all ha-ha, funny, funny. It meant you got nothing but comedy spots, as the commentators just went ha 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 every time she did fall over. And again, this wasn't really why I was tuning into wrestling. In fact, I have actually no idea who it was for. Number 26, Loch Ness in 1996. Now, on the one hand, this was giant haystacks getting into WCW in 1996, and as a massive World of Sport fan, I always thought that was cool, but unfortunately the man was well past his best in the mid-90s, and also, we called him Loch Ness. We may as well have dubbed him British Man. To be fair, World Champion of Wrestling was also aware of his limitations at this stage, so he basically just caught people and threw them around. But yeah, he was never really gonna light up your life. Number 26, Crush in 1997. Another dude who was pigeonholed due to his size, Crush was basically told to plod around the ring like it was the late 80s and beat people up. And do not forget, this was on the cusp of the Attitude Era, but also we'd seen the likes of Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. This just wasn't gonna fly anymore. And he did have that colourful attire, which was also a wink and a nod to the past. But let's just be honest, if I said come up with one good Crush match from 1997, I don't think you're gonna have an answer. Number 24, Kurgan in 1998. Kurgan was big, and we know how Vince McMahon feels about big guys, but I will stand on my heel here and say I actually think he probably had more in the tank. But again, he was given his role and told what to do. Because he was part of the Truth Commission and he was part of the Oddities, but every time he was basically told, try to look scary, and when we do pull the trigger, throw somebody around. He also seemed like another guy that didn't have the best of knees. I don't want to rag on dudes that don't have knees. Again, you need knees. Number 23, Mideon in 1999. I ain't insulting Mideon. I'm just telling you that straight up right now. For starters, he was one of the first dudes in the Ministry of Darkness. Then for no reason, when that was done, he was naked Mideon, and he would run around before transforming into a very good impersonator of mankind. And do I remember any great matches with him? No. But do I always think of him fondly? Yes. I like Dennis Knight. Number 22, The Wall in 2000. In the year 2000, WCW just wanted to do exactly what the WWF was doing. So they went, hey, we need more mammoth monsters. So they found one, and they called him The Wall. And let's not pretend this can't work. While it seems to divide people, I really like Omos in 2021. But yeah, if you go back to the year 2000 using your old Google machine and read some articles about The Wall, absolutely nobody liked him. To the point now I feel quite sorry for him. Number 21, Chronic in 2001. Forget the name because you know, and let's transport ourselves back to the past. Young Simon really liked Chronic. They looked cool, they had good ring attire, they absolutely kicked ass, they had long hair, which obviously I was going to yearn for in the future, and I just knew. Then I grew up and I kind of realized what everyone was talking about. In 2001 as well, this is mostly down to that match they had with The Undertaker and Kane, or the Brothers of Destruction. If you haven't seen it, don't. Never go out of your way to see it. It is like two cars just coming together, and the result is one massive wreck. And why? We never really saw him again. Number 20, The Undertaker in 2002. This is less to do with the matches and more how the American Badass version of The Undertaker in 2002 just ran over everyone. We just mentioned the invasion in passing. So many times the dead man was put up against people in this feud, and it was barely a match. He may as well have got a knife and just stabbed him. I mean, this is the same kind of booking that got John Cena crazy booed years down the line. And apart from Brock Lesnar in 2002, I cannot give you another name of someone The Undertaker actually had a competitive match against. That's why he's here. Number 19, Nathan Jones in 2003. My brother Nathan Jones was awesome. That's right. If you're really, really tall, you have a bald head, and you look like you're massively jacked, I, like Vince McMahon, will kind of peer over my television set and think, oh, this guy could be quite good. This was actually the problem though, because as soon as Vince had seen him, he was like, well, we got to put him on TV straight away, pal. But in no universe or in no reality was Nathan Jones ready. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It doesn't matter who you are doomed. It's why the proposed WrestleMania match between The Undertaker and Jones taking on Prince Albert and Test was changed to a handicap match, because even management had gone, look, we can't put him in Mania. He ain't ready. Who the hell called him up? Sadly, in wrestling though, first impressions count for everything. So after this, he was let loose and really was never given a chance. Number 18, Mordecai in 2004. The Mordecai gimmick was nice and simple. He would be the complete opposite and the antithesis to The Undertaker, meaning he would wear white. That was basically about it. I suppose this could have worked, but for one reason or another it fell apart, mostly because his debut was not a good showing for Mordecai. I mean, I went back and watched it, and I think the poor dude must have been nervous. But yeah, that was that, and a few months afterwards, he got released. Number 17, Heidenreich in 2005. A classic WWE hire in the sense that he was a big former football player. Heidenreich was just so weird. He looked kind of weird, he spoke kind of weird, his entrance was kind of weird, and that thing he did with Michael Cole one time, which I will not repeat on this show, was weird. So I just don't get it. It was so odd, and on occasion, he even beat The Undertaker. I mean, look what it's done to my face. Number 16, The Boogeyman in 2006. Was The Boogeyman the worst wrestler of 2006? I mean, we put him in here, so yes. But also, I would go, I'm not sure you can actually have an opinion on that, because all he did was beat people up here and there, and then eat some worms. And he made a decent career out of this too. Think about the amount of times that WWE has brought him back to the company, and I bet he made a pretty penny. But honestly, I sat there and I pondered it for ages. I don't think I've ever seen him have a proper wrestling match. Number 15, Juice in 2007. For some reason in 2007, WWE introduced Deuce and Domino, which were a tag team that thought they had come from the 1950s. I mean, you tell me. If I were to guess, I would say this was come up within a creative meeting, and then they said, oh, we've got to find two dudes to do this. And they did find Deuce and Domino. Well, it didn't really work out very well for Deuce. I mean, the problem here was that you had the character first and you had to try and figure out how to get that over while having slick back hair and go, woo, like you were the Fonz. Nah, it was just crap. Number 14, Manu in 2008. Manu was fine, he was decent and he was solid, but I think this is where the problem begins. So when you try and talk about him today, there just isn't that much to say, hence why he always makes lists like this. And to be honest, that's all I've got to say because Manu was just there for a while, and then he wasn't. Number 13, the Great Khali in 2009. You know the deal with the Great Khali. Even before he had debuted with WWE, he had absolutely no joints and could barely walk down the road, and for some reason we went and made him WWE champion. And honestly, it likely would have been fine if he was just the big guy of the year, but again, Vince McMahon had to push him to the moon and put him in a bunch of matches that nobody ever wanted to see, and he was in that Punjabi prison thingy. Ugh, let's not talk about it. Number 12, Sean Morley in 2010. Weird way to start this, but I do hope that Sean Morley, the former Val Venus, is okay, because I've seen a lot of his rants on social media, and well, he seems anything but alright. It may have started in 2010 when he found himself on the outs with WWE and decided to join TNA, and in their infinite wisdom they just said, hey, do the Val Venus thing, but try and update it a little bit. And that never works. It's like putting the word new in front of a tag team name. It already sucks. Number 11, Kelly in 2011. I don't like repeating myself, but the truth is a truth. It doesn't take a genius to go, well, Kelly made it onto TV before she was ready because she was very attractive, but the key part of that sentence was before she was ready. If you had trained her up and allowed her to learn the ropes, I bet she would have been more than fine, but no, we put her into a cannon, pow, and there she was on Raw and SmackDown. You can tell this too because she did get better as the weeks and months went on, the hard part being she was learning on the job. I ain't gonna crap over her too much because I do not think it is fair. Number 10, Brodus Clay in 2012. Brodus Clay got screwed over for a joke. Think of that. But after months of vignettes and videos where it was teased he was going to be WWE's big monster, he did arrive and he did debut and he was a dinosaur. I will never get over it. I suppose at first it was fun because like, oh, that's quite novel, that's quite original. But this idea ran out of steam so fast, Brodus didn't do much of anything in his matches. And surprise, surprise, after however long it was, and when he was teaming up with Albert as the Hip Hop Hippo, somebody went, what are we doing? And it was stopped. Number 9, The Miz in 2013. Now this ties into booking again because I am never going to stand here and rag over The Miz's career because he has had a run in wrestling that every single person who wants to get to the top would be jealous and envious of. I mean, he has been smashing it for decades. The problem in 2013 is, despite the fact that he was one of the best bad guys there was, somebody in management went, I think we should make him a babyface, and also, we should team him with Ric Flair. What? I have no idea, but it meant The Miz started doing the figure four and sometimes strutting, and surprise, surprise, nobody wanted to get behind this because they just wanted to boo The Miz. Even the people behind the scenes realized this was done pretty quickly and then did a 180 and took Miz back to the dark side. But honestly, this was really, really stupid. Number 18, Cameron in 2014. I know, boring Simon, but hey, it's not my fault. Do not forget that when you first saw Cameron on Tough Enough 2011, that was her first exposure to the wrestling business, and now a few years on, she's trying to have a match on proper international television. Once again, that's called pressure, and it could not have been easy. With that said, it doesn't explain that while she was having a match with former friend Naomi and knocked her to her front, she tried to pin her. That's right. So Naomi has her back going up to the ceiling, and Cameron tried to pin her. And the ref was like, well, I'm not going to count that because, you know, it's not a real pin. So Cameron looked at the ref and went, pin, do the pin. The ref was like, she's the wrong way around. And then Cameron had to flip her. This is the best moment in wrestling history. I would put this down to super nerves though, because I've done dumb stuff in the ring as well, be it falling off the turnbuckle or making a mistake and then just stopping like a deer in the headlights. but still, funny is funny, and this one was funny. Number 7, Eva Marie 2015. As above, you know the deal, blah, 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 blah. Given WWE's tendencies to put looks first though, she did make it onto the TV shows long before she was ready, and once again, if we had given her more time in NXT or development or whatever the hell you want to call it, she could have been a perfectly fine wrestler. We didn't do this though, so the internet was just rife with these gifs of Eva Marie willingly throwing herself out on the ring, or that time she kind of just collapsed on the apron even though nobody was near her. No, I didn't get it either. I do think we sometimes forget though, if you are in this position, especially in WWE or AEW, you're also surrounded by super professionals. That is just going to make you look even worse. Number 6, The Ascension in 2016. This one will just hurt your brain, because despite being part of the WWE system and being told, oh, you can be an updated version of Demolition or the Road Warriors, when The Ascension got to the main roster after doing alright in NXT, the commentators laughed at them like, ha ha ha, what a stupid ripoff. It's like, what are you talking about? You're the person that gave them the idea. And then we got stuck in some kind of weird time loop where they were told to grunt like it was 1987 and then pointed at because they were grunting like it was 1987. And this tied into their matches too. All of this will drive you crazy. Number 5, Jinder Mahal in 2017. I think this one is a little mid-judged because I bet if Jinder Mahal had never randomly become WWE champion in 2017, you wouldn't even be talking about him. He wouldn't be at the top of any cards, he wouldn't be at the bottom, he'd just be slap bang in the middle. The thing is, we did do this, so boom, here we are. And I absolutely think it was a wasted opportunity by WWE, because if you planned to take Jinder, who was like an opening match dude, and turn him into the champion, you could have had a month-long storyline, or even bigger than that, where he just climbed his way to the top. But no, one day he just went poof, he beat Randy Orton, champ. It also made the whole thing very transparent because it was clearly WWE's marketing department going, oh man, we should try and monetize India better. None of this was very good. Number 4, Shane McMahon in 2018. Shane McMahon just skipped his way into that Saudi Arabia Best of the World tournament, even though he wasn't in the thing, and he won, and I'm gonna level with you, it was my favourite thing of that year. And this was mainly because I was sharing it on Twitter as everybody was melting down. It was like Vince McMahon had been on Reddit and he had read the storyline idea, not realised it was a joke, and because he does have control, he put it down on the magic piece of paper, and now it was happening before our eyes. But I respect Shane O'Mac because he's crazy and he does crazy things, but nobody could have got away with this. Even Stone Cold Steve Austin would have struggled just upending a tournament and winning the trophy. My word, this was funny. Number 3, Goldberg in 2019. Hard to argue this one because we do go back to Saudi Arabia and we remember that match with The Undertaker. And you know it didn't go very well because here I still stand a couple of years later and I'm just relieved nobody was hurt. Taker and Bill knew that it was a disaster too though. Not only can you see it in their faces, but in interviews after the fact, both guys have gone, yeah, that one didn't really work. Don't really want to talk about it. His SummerSlam match with Dolph Ziggler was far better and exactly how we should be using my dad Goldberg in the modern day. But let's just move on to what's next. Number 2, The Fiend in 2020. Once again, this wasn't even his fault, but the way he was treated, he didn't stand a chance. Here are some examples. Losing to Goldberg really easily for the title at the start of the year. Having the oddest match ever with Braun Strowman when he drowned him in a swamp. He kept losing over and over again, and then he got set on fire by Randy Orton. There is the same old when it comes to Bray Wyatt and WWE. World Wrestling Entertainment had no idea what they had with the man, and now ludicrously, here I stand in the modern day, and he's been released. I tell you right now, they're gonna live to regret it. Number 1, Nia Jax in 2021. So the rhetoric has always been that Nia Jax is a dangerous worker and hurts people. Now look, there are snippets of evidence like this, especially when she was fighting Kairi Sane that time, but until a bunch of wrestlers from the backstage area come out and say, oh my gosh, Nia Jax was dangerous, I want to err on the side of caution here, because actually, we have no idea. It is why you chose her for 2021 though, and I think a large reason for this is for that absolutely crazy weird match she had with Charlotte Flair, where it seemed like they both fell out with each other, so decided to have a proper fight. And that could be one of the most unprofessional things I've ever heard in my entire life. I did enjoy her match with Shayna Baszler, which actually resulted in her getting a working injury, meaning she has been written off TV. So as I don't know what's around the corner, I will just sit back and I'll wait and see. Now, please do leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about any of these entries, and please do add some more. It's always good to see. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head over to whatculture.com where you can read articles like this with your eyes and your bones and your ears. Make sure you come say hello on social media, and we got a ton of videos. Go watch another. My name is Simon for What Culture. It's been my pleasure. I'll see you on the next one.